3 geography facts that will blow your mind. No. 1. Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined. Over 60% of the world's lakes are in Canada. That's right. Most people think that the country with the most lakes is either Russia or the US. But those are just 2 of the 5 countries with the most lakes. And they're nowhere near the top. Want to know which country has the most lakes? Drum roll, please. It's Canada. Yes, this great white north has more lakes than all the other countries on Earth combined. How many lakes does Canada have? Well, over 2 million. And if you were to add up the number of lakes in the rest of the world, you would still only be able to equal the number of lakes in Canada. So why does Canada have so many lakes? Well, it has to do with its geology. Canada is full of glaciated valleys and basins. This is because, during the last ice age, glaciers carved out these low spots as they moved across the landscape. Then, when the glaciers melted, they left behind all of these lakes. Some of the largest lakes in the world are in Canada, including Huron, Ontario, Superior, Erie, and Michigan, 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. Canada has so many lakes that it could literally supply the entire world with water. Number 2. There's a country inside Italy, and another one inside that one. If you've ever been to Italy or seen pictures of it, you probably know that Rome is the capital city. But did you know there's an entire country inside of Rome? And then there's also a second smaller country within that one. Here's how it works. The big one is the Vatican City. The Pope is the head of state, and it's the smallest country in the world by both area and population. Only about 1,000 people live here, but millions of tourists visit each year. It's essentially a city-state, meaning it's an independent country and a city. All of Vatican City is contained within the larger city of Rome. And who's in charge of Rome? Well, the Italian government. But what about the country inside the Vatican? The answer might surprise you. It's called the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. It's a religious order of the Catholic Church. And yes, it's also a sovereign state. What that means is it's an independent country. They have their own flag, passports, and even diplomatic relations with other countries. So you could say that the Sovereign Military Order of Malta is a country inside a country. Inside a country. Number 3, Africa is way bigger than you think. If you're like me and you grew up in America, chances are you learned about geography from a textbook or an old school teacher. And if that was the case, you probably learned that Africa is pretty small. Well, we're here to bust that myth today. The continent of Africa is actually gigantic. It's the second largest continent in the world by both area and population. Only Asia is larger. To understand just how big Africa really is, let's look at a globe. As you can see, Africa is almost exactly the same size as the Asian continent. The reason that Africa looks smaller than Asia in most maps is because of something called the Mercator projection. This is the most common type of map that we see. But this type of map makes Africa look much smaller than it really is. Let me show you. Here's what most maps of Africa look like. Now let's compare that to what Africa actually looks like. I think it's safe to say that the second one looks a lot more realistic. The crazy thing is that Africa is actually huge. It's almost as big as the US, China, India, and most of Europe all put together. Imagine trying to travel to every country in Africa. Well, if you want to do that, you better start saving money, because it will cost you a pretty penny. Every country in Africa requires a visa, and some of them are very expensive. For example, a visa for Nigeria costs $160, a visa for South Africa costs $50, but the most expensive visa in Africa belongs to Equatorial Guinea. A tourist visa for this tiny island nation costs a whopping $200. Thanks for watching. Do you know any obscure geography facts? Share them below. Everyone, I'm the host. and I've been your guide to the world's hidden and bizarre places. Subscribe for more stories like these. Thanks for watching.